Hey guys, welcome to my guide for Mythic plus Darkheart Thicket. First, I want to give a big thanks to Hypermode from the MMO Champion forums. There aren't a lot of resources online for learning these dungeons on Mythic Plus, but he made a great thread that's helped my group a lot. I'll put a link in the description to Hypermode's post. The footage I'm using is from a Mythic 2, but these tips will apply to any Mythic level. We made a few minor mistakes with ad grouping on this run, and had one major mispull, but we still managed to get 3 chests. If you follow the pulls and tricks in this video, you should have no problem getting 2 to 3 chests on low level keys and beating the time on high level keys. Be sure to watch to the end of the video because one of the biggest time savers comes at the end. Alright, so let's get right into it. At the start of the dungeon, the first few pulls are pretty standard. My group likes to go slow and steady, especially at lower level keys, but depending on your confidence level, you could probably pull the first 2 packs together. Bear in mind that the screechers on the second pull do a disorient that you can and should be interrupting. They're not too hard to handle with stuns and mass interrupts, but single target interrupts are also effective. The next pull is a single bear, but be aware that there is a patrol right behind him. I prefer to wait until the bear is low on health before we pull the patrol. The patrol's AoE damage is entirely avoidable, but a small mistake could cost you big at higher levels, so be careful. They cast a few spells, so DPS should be interrupting on cooldown. After that pull, move into the next room and pull the hippogriffs on the left side. This pack also contains night elves like the patrol you just fought, so make sure you keep interrupts up again. Once you finish fighting this pack, it's time for the first big skip of the instance. If you go immediately left from where you just fought that group, you'll find a pile of boulders with a hole in the middle. The hole is a trick, and you should actually climb up the tree branch and drop off on the left side. A lot of groups like to drop straight down through the hole, but if you do, you'll aggro unnecessary and difficult trash. For the next pull, it's worth waiting on the patrol to get into a good position and then pulling it back to where you dropped. The next section is entirely skippable if you're very careful. You just need to squeeze very carefully between the 2 packs, and once you get to the wall, hug to the right side as hard as you can. There is a caster patrol on this road, so you'll need to use interrupts to get them to come to your tank. You can also pull the patrol with the pack right before the 2 bears for a little increased efficiency. When you get to the 2 bears, you can actually pull them separately with a ranged ability. We haven't done a lot of testing with this, so we always pull the one on the left because we know that doesn't aggro the one on the right. It's very important to pull these separately because of the damage output they do at higher mythic difficulties. These bears also do a frontal cleave, so it's important to have your tank face them away from the group. When your tank pulls the second bear, he should run all the way to the green gate. This will engage the RP for the first boss and save you several seconds. There isn't much to say about the first boss, except that we use bloodlust and DPS potions to try to down him as fast as we can. After the first boss, if you pull the dryad and the 2 flowers alone, you can skip the next pack. All that you need to do is crowd control the dryad that's jumping around in the road. Once you have her CC'd, hug the right wall as tight as possible and pull the next pack of 1 dryad and 2 flowers all the way into the house. The reason for pulling into the house is because the dryad jumps around like crazy, and if you're not careful, she'll pull extra trash. This is a small pull, but the next pull can be very difficult if you're not prepared or if you're not pulling on your own terms. The next pack contains 2 Darkheart Keepers, which place a mushroom on the ground that deals very high AoE damage to anybody standing near it. It's very important for the tank to move these as soon as the mushroom spawns. Additionally, as long as your key doesn't have a modifier like bolstering, you should mark a skull and focus it down first. On the path to the next boss, there's a single dryad and 2 flowers. We like to pull those separately and finish the dryad off first. Once the dryad is dead, you can pull the remaining flowers into the next room and pull all of the nightmare dwellers together. The dwellers channel an ability called Tormenting Eye that deals moderate damage and fears the target for 4 seconds if it completes. This is a good place to use AoE stuns and interrupts, and once those are finished, everybody should be single target interrupting on cooldown. This brings us to the next boss. Again, there isn't much to say, his mechanics are the same as normal Mythic, so just do it like you would normally do the fight. On the next pull, you can pull the oozes with the water elemental, but we didn't, which was one of our minor mistakes. When fighting the water elemental, it's very important for players to avoid being hit by the meteor. It does a drain life on the player and heals the water elemental for the damage that was dealt. Once the elemental disperses, it's important to keep stuns and AoE interrupts up on the ads, or they can grow into full-size elementals. We learned that the hard way. The next water elemental is completely skippable. You should wait till he passes to the left and then pull all of the minor oozes into the room. This is the big mistake that we made that almost cost us the run. As we went inside, the water elemental accidentally pulled and we fought him with the boss. Make sure you don't do that. It cost us a lot of time and it was no fun. Our time was pretty good here because it's only a Mythic 2, but on a higher level key, this would be a good time to use your second bloodlust. Again, there's not much to say on this boss, but I do want to note that you shouldn't use a DPS potion here unless you pre-pot it so that your cooldown is refreshing while you fight the boss. This is because after this boss, you're going to use an invisibility potion to skip a lot of the next trash. After the third boss, everybody should use a goblin glider to jump into the log. Believe it or not, you can use an invisibility pot while you're on the goblin glider and it doesn't take it away. Using a goblin glider to get into the log reduces the time it takes drastically. If you use your invisibility potion while on the glider just before you get to your first set of mobs, you should be able to skip all the way past the bats. We didn't do this perfectly, so we stopped and grouped up where the bats spawn. After the bats, there's just one more easy trash pull, just do stuns and interrupts and you should be fine. Again, when it comes to Xavius, there's not much to say, but one of the biggest tips I can give you is to stand close but not stacked with other players, just to mitigate the effects of the silence. And that's pretty much it. If you guys know some things that I don't know about this dungeon, let me know in the comments. I'm always excited to learn new things about these dungeons. Also, I'm going to continue this series, and I'm going to try to get out videos for all of the Mythic Plus dungeons. Definitely subscribe if you'd like to see that content. And finally, leave a like if you liked the video, and thanks for watching.